It's Dominion, baby.
Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em. Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em. Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em.
Yeah.
Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em. Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em.
Adrian, we got you. Dominion.
Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em.
Let's go.
Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em.
J. Red.
Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em.
Go get 'em.
Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em.
Go get 'em.
Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em.
Go get 'em.
Go get 'em, I'ma go get 'em.
Let's go. Go get 'em. Mo Trilla, Forilla. Adrian V, epitome of a gold winner.
Gotta get it what it's to get got, and nigga, it's been good. Your spezzies on top, stop. Adrian V, the capo on the drop. Who said it can't be done? Just sit back and watch.
Fridays until you better set your clock.
Yeah.
These unsigned hits like
What is
electric
going on,
shocks.
Buffalo?
Bring a light to the game.
Code of
Stand up,
conduct is
getting
back.
live on the stage.
Go
It's
get
been a
it, mix
long 2
turntables
weeks
aflame.
off. I apologize for my back being jacked up. I am back, though. I am back. I'm having a good time already. I have Miss Madison Carter in the back waiting, and just got a chance to speak to her quickly. Adri V is on her way in. I'm excited. Tonight I had a really, really big show planned. I had to switch up a little bit. Judge Jaher Pridgeon was unable to make it. Renee Washington is unable to make it. That's my fault. 100% my fault. I was feeding my dogs and felt something in my back go weird. So, yeah, I'm going to get Renee on, though. I think Renee is somebody that I think for football fans, sports fans in general, and then just for her insight, I think people would really enjoy listening to a conversation with Renee. So I'll get her in. I do want to briefly acknowledge Judge Pridgeon. So Judge Pridgeon is actually my blood sister. So I was really looking forward to having her on because I don't normally do like a lot of the personal stuff, and I don't tell about my family and all that. I thought tonight would have been a really good night to kind of have some type of interaction and give a little background, but we're going to do that eventually. I'll get some family on here, and but tonight I have another, it's not like I'm lacking anything. I got, one of my favorite reporters, Miss Madison Carter, and then I got Adri V, the go-getter herself, joining me. So I'm going to start it off, bring I'm happy. Like, you don't understand how excited I am about this. I'm going to bring Madison Carter in first because Adri's still not with us, and we're going to get this going. Miss Madison Carter, hello, and thank you so much.
Of course. I'm so excited to be here. I saw you putting the promos out. Everybody was hyped. So I hope we got like a lot of my friends actually watching. So I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, good. I'm glad that you're excited. I'm 100% excited. Like, I know I'm not physically in Buffalo anymore, but I know I can speak for a big part of Buffalo to say, like, I miss you being a part of our source for information. Like, you were amazing.
I'm not there either, but like everybody sees me. I'm like, mind your business, Madison. You're in Atlanta. Mind your business. But I'm like, I can't be other with the election. You should have seen me. I was over here, and I'm like, stay out of it. I couldn't do it. Buffalo is me. I am Buffalo. So yeah, although neither of us are there, that's home. That's the spot.
Well, and see, and a lot of people don't know, I'm sure, your background and your history, but it's not just Buffalo. Like, it's Western New York. You've been a part of Western New York, So if you want to take a quick moment and kind of just let everybody know a little bit about you before we kind of dive into some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I honestly never knew anything about Western New York. Never knew anything about Buffalo. I grew up outside of DC on the Virginia side, went up to Syracuse, New York for school, actually. And while I was there, I fell in love. That is not Western New York. That is Central New York.
Central.
That's the one thing in New York, you know your regions. Do not call it upstate if it's not upstate. So I was there for a few years, went back to Virginia, came back to New York. So I just tell people I would bounce back and forth between Virginia and New York. Those are my two homes. In Buffalo, I didn't know a single person. I had one family friend there, but no family. And I just thought it was a good opportunity for a great job. A lot of people I went to school with were working at that station, WKBW. I knew it was a good station. I knew it was a good feeder. And I thought it was just going to be, a couple years, just a stepping stool to get to the next job. But was not expecting to fall in love with Buffalo and Western New York, make it home, and really try to make some changes to the way that, reporting is done or the type of stories that are done in that region.
Well, I can speak for myself. You did a great job doing that. You kind of, you brought interest to a lot of the topics that I guess for Buffalo, from my experience, don't typically get reported on. So for that, thank you. There was a lot of things that, normally it wouldn't have been the topic of conversation, and you did a really, really good job, and you helped a ton of people in the Buffalo community. So thank you. Thank you.
So I hope so. Thanks for saying that. That was my goal. I was like, if I could have, at least get one story on that we've never seen before. It's not that we haven't seen them. Like, we're all talking about it, right? Especially in our communities, non-white communities, I'll say. these are our stories, right? It's just that wasn't reflected on the TV screens, in 4 stages.
Right.
So that didn't make sense. And that I'm leaving, or now that I have left, I still feel like I haven't left. I still feel like I'm transitioning out. I'm leaving Buffalo. Now that I've left, I keep looking back and I'm like, all right, I want to see more of that. Like, I want to see more people step in and fill that space. So I hope we get that. I hope that is something that can remain.
I hope so. I think, hopefully they'll gauge the interaction and they'll gauge just how much the people enjoyed that type of reporting. And hopefully we can keep that going. But you just mentioned you left, unfortunately, heartbreaks and everything.
Yes.
How's Atlanta treating you?
Man, I tell you, I'm having the time of my life. I am having the time of my life in Atlanta. I really am. It was, like I said, a hard transition. I was heartbroken. I did not want to leave Buffalo. I didn't think it was my time. God laughed right in my face and said, "We out." So I was like, okay, let's get my things together. So yeah, like the transition out was a little faster than I had anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
But this job, I mean, I told people, I'm doing my dream job. The kind of work I was doing in Buffalo or trying to do while juggling 85 other things, that's my full-time job here. I'm on a team called Atticus. We're a national team based in Atlanta at the NBC affiliate here. And we do long-form documentary style investigations. So those super deep dives, we'll have a couple episodes, it'll really be pushed digitally. So when I left Buffalo, I left, my consolation was that the stories I'm going to tell will still affect and impact people's lives there, which is like, I consider my home, really, even though I was raised outside of DC, still affect people's lives there and hopefully across the country too.
Yeah, no, that's great. I got a chance to kind of, obviously before interviewing you, I had to do some research and pull up, and I got to see some things that you're doing already. And it's just like, Buffalo is going to miss you so much.
It's cool. It's cool. I got to go to the Chauvin. I did the Chauvin verdict. I got a really cool assignment. I'm actually going out. I'll be embedded with Simone Biles' family for the Olympics. So that is going to be super, super dope. So I'm almost like a correspondent while I'm doing this stuff. So I'm excited. I miss Buffalo. I do. I'm trying to mind my business in Atlanta. I do it 80% of the time, I think. But, I'm always going to step a toe in and hopefully amplify some things, ask some questions, make sure Buffalo's doing what it needs to do. You know, I cracked the whip a lot when I was there. So
You did. You ruffled some feathers. But you know what? I think it's okay. I feel like if feathers aren't ruffled, there's no changes coming. And, you know, and like I said, that was a big part of why I think people fell in love with the type of reporting you did. You know, so, but, you know, it's fun. Atlanta's great. I don't have anything against Atlanta. You just experienced something as an outsider moving there, kind of like I'm doing now. I'm in Phoenix, and the Phoenix Suns, they made it to the finals. The Atlanta Hawks made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm sorry. I know you're there, so now it's part of your squad. How's Atlanta?
Go ahead.
Well, how's Atlanta right now? Like, how, obviously heartbroken because of the loss, but how was the energy for that?
I was just at my homie's house and I'm telling him, like, what is this city? Like, there aren't, and being in Buffalo, like, the sports are a part of you. You feel it, even though the teams might be doo-doo for 17 years,
Yeah.
It's like, that is who you are. And so I'm like, the Hawks made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. We're there. Game 6 happened, and it was like, there were no emotions. I was like, oh, alrighty. Well, here we go. I'm like,
Boy.
Can we feel something? Can we have a day of mourning? Can we be, proud of the team? But it's like, there's not that same energy, which is sad.
Wow.
Yeah, even this, yeah. So Atlanta sports and people, maybe it's just being in a really big city. Other people just go about their day. In Buffalo, there's not, I'm lying. That's a stereotype. There is a lot to do in Buffalo, but that's a big part of the culture. Here, it's like, all right, let's go get this money now. And I'm like, dang.
Wow.
Feel it more. Mm-hmm.
See, that's shocking to me. So here in Phoenix, even from the first round, like when they beat the Lakers, like you heard horns in the streets, and then you heard so now that they made it to the finals, it was insane. It's been insane out here.
Really?
But,
that's what I want. And I mean, even in DC, like people would have, I didn't see a single Hawks jersey. I swear to you. So I'm still adjusting. We're gonna see what happens during football season. A lot of people also aren't from Atlanta. So there's a lot of transient people here. So I'm adjusting. Obviously, I'm rooting for the Bills. So that's my team. But yeah, the sports energy in Atlanta is a little standoffish, I would say.
Well, I was just gonna say, they play the Bills. I think in December, the
Mhm.
Falcons play the Bills. So we just gotta. I'll be making sure I'm watching to make sure you
Yeah.
still representing Buffalo properly.
Absolutely, because I got there are a bunch of like expats, Buffalo expats, like just some girls I
Mhm.
worked with that honestly all worked at my station. One's in San Francisco. My best friend from college, we're actually working at the same station now. Paola Suro, she used to work at WKBW. So we're all like planning around this event, that game in December. Because like once you become a Bills fan, you're not jumping off the bandwagon.
You
So
can't. Like it's a lifestyle. Like you said, it becomes our life from Buffalo. So, but let's jump into some questions. I didn't bring you on to talk sports, even though I know you can do that
we can
because
do
you're that dope. But let's talk. ESPN seems to be the gift that just keeps on giving. And yesterday, I woke up and Twitter was just going nuts about a Rachel Nichols story and about Maria Taylor. Basically, for those of you who are in here live now with us and those of you listening to this in podcast form, Rachel Nichols from ESPN was, I don't want to say caught, but she basically was on a hot mic similar to that situation in a virtual setting. She recorded herself having a private conversation, sharing some thoughts about her assignment last year in the NBA finals or the NBA playoffs, and that Maria Taylor was given the assignment based on diversity or based on the lack of diversity. Before I jump in, why don't you just share your thoughts or your feelings when you first read the story or heard the story?
Yeah, that was one story that really shook me up a little bit. You read a lot of these stories, and then I even saw in some of the responses in the time, like at the time I was jumping, okay, it was going crazy over this. But I saw from a lot of women who look like me, Black women in the industry, just how triggering it was and even Black men, brown people, everyone has that story. Everyone has a story. I have 3 or 4 I can share of people who said it to my face. Who have said it to my face that, like, obviously you're in that position. No offense to you, I'm sure you're talented and everything, but like, the station needed some diversity and I'm like, first of all, I'll run circles around you any day. But like,
Love it.
I'm like, humbly, respectfully. But it was just like, it's always really difficult to hear that about yourself. And then to be in a situation where, you're working for the company, and you can't really come out and share your thoughts and opinions. And then the fact that nothing happened, the fact that there was no recourse, no discipline, it was just like, oops, yeah, she said that was probably bad. It was a difficult day reading that story.
Well, the thing is, though, there has been some discipline, but it doesn't seem to be to people who deserved it. So, it's so many layers to this story. So, and I know you're actually friends with the young lady who was disciplined.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to really find exactly what she was disciplined for. Do you have any insight on that?
So just from the article, so I talked to her and I've been talking to her for years. I met her because our families actually have been friends since my dad was playing with the Redskins. Our dads both played for the Redskins years ago. So like we're up as family friends. She's worked for ESPN for a long time. And I tweeted about it and I said, she's responsible for those videos that we love of like the draftees not knowing anything about like 90s pop culture. And it's just, so she's worked for them for years, done awesome stuff. She did the, I don't know if you remember when they did Stephen A. and they put his, like the subtitles of him and all his like, like she wrote that. But she's really talented. And I just had known from people who work at ESPN, it's always that like, there's some stuff going on, but I did not know about this particular incident until I saw her name come up in the article. So I've talked to her since then, I've met her, but she was disciplined, the answer to your question, for sending Maria Taylor the video. So she was essentially disciplined for being the messenger. Like,
gotcha.
Because it was just going around. And what happened was Rachel Nichols was in a room and like her camera was on and she didn't realize that she was still being recorded back on the ESPN servers from her hotel room. So it was like an employee heard that conversation, recorded it, and then was sending it around. So when they did this internal investigation, they said, how did this video get recorded? How did it get sent? She said, yeah, like I got the video and I sent it to Maria. Like I know her, she's a friend of mine. And she was, according to the article, right, she was suspended for 2 weeks. So I was like, right. So I'm like, she didn't record the video. She just sent it to her friend to let her know what is being said essentially publicly about her. It wasn't public, it was private, but hot mics, they tell you always all the time. Don't ever trust that. So that was hard. That's the kind of person Kayla is. Like she always has her people's back, her friends. She wants you to know what's up, and it's not like she's trying to gossip or anything. It's just like, dang, like this is what's going on. Like I want, if you're my homie and you saw that, like I want you to let me know who I'm working with, who has my back and who doesn't. But yeah, so just like the surprise of seeing my friend, somebody who I know closely, her name pop up in that context in the article, the reaction to it, and it's the story of what happens to Black people in the TV business. It is not a unique story in any way, shape, or form. Every Black, I said, go talk to some Black people and you'll hear many stories, each person's different version of how this has happened to them. So it's always us essentially fighting against people saying we're only here because of what we look like.
And well, for the record too, so I'm a personal fan of Rachel Nichols. I've always loved watching her on, ESPN and doing the NBA coverage. I do not think that she is a bad person. When things like this happen, a lot of times the overreaction on the internet is like, oh, she's racist. Oh, she's this. Oh, she's that. I don't think that that's necessarily the case, but I do think a lot of times it's dangerous when we're publicly, a lot of times the conversation is different than the private one. And I think what ended up happening here, obviously, is we got to hear both sides of it. And the painful reality is that, like you said, it's not an uncommon story for a lot of people in the industry. Yeah. So in this case, I think Maria is absolutely talented. I think she deserves everything that she gets. Yeah. And she's handling it with grace. It seems like she's going to be out of there, though. Her contract is up and she might be looking elsewhere. Have you had any personal experience in your career? And I know you mentioned it earlier that you kind of have, but can you speak to anything to kind of where you had this type of experience? Yeah. And because you rose above it, obviously you're still doing great things. Yeah.
And honestly, I love that we're having this conversation, that you said, you don't think Rachel's a bad person, because you're right, the reaction and you feel it and it hurts. But I've been going back and forth on like some of what she said, right? Because that is a very true thing right now. The companies are struggling with the fact that they do not have diverse talent, that they are not elevating Black talent to these positions. And so, it's hard because half of me, I'm like, I think she's talented. I do think Maria Taylor is very talented, but like Rachel said, it was written into her contract that this was her job, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know, as a company, like, no, you can't knock somebody else down and put somebody Black there, but at the same time, you need to create more spaces. So you're right. I do like that conversation. I think it's a tough conversation to have.
It is very hard.
But I'm glad that we acknowledge that. I'm glad. I think that's important to acknowledge that, like, we need to create space without taking something away, because, like, that's not fair too. Like you said, Rachel has done good work for a lot of years. So anyway, in my experience, I remember at my last job, actually, I had a colleague. I'm not naming names, but if you hear this, you know what's up. But that would regularly tell a producer, oh, Madison she's only anchoring because she's Black. She's only getting this, she's on election night because they were trying to elevate Black talent. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, you know what? Maybe. But do you know how much I care? This much. Because I have these opportunities, and whether I'm Black, white, purple, or pink, like I'm going in and I'm handling it and elevating each position that I'm given, right? And the reason I'm doing that, and the reason I'm trying to blow every assignment out of the water, is so that people will see, like, oh, Black women are actually really talented. Wow, like, because in Buffalo, that was my experience. I legitimately had somebody be like, whoa, I didn't know what to expect from you. And I'm like, why not? I have a resume tape. I have a reel. You know exactly what to expect. So I will tell you, I was absolutely hired for for every job I've ever had, because I'm Black, 100%. But I think this position was the first one I got because, like, I'm Black and I'm talented, and they were looking for somebody who had all of those factors to elevate and put in like a really high position in the company. So how have I handled it? It's hard to hear, but accepting it. Sometimes you're there because of what you look like. A lot of reporters today, that's happening, but it's like, how do you take yourself from being this trendy diversity hire to a staple in the industry, to a staple at that station or at that company, by blowing the assignment out of the water?
Right. And I was just going to say, so what you said, like, I didn't know how to expect or what to expect when I was growing up. And I'm sure this conversation is something that every young Black person has ever had. But like my grandfather used to tell me as a kid, you got to be twice as good to get, you know, the same amount or half or whatever. So, you know, the fact that you do your job so well, I think that now is rewarding you because you've blown it out the park, like you said, and now you got a job where they weren't looking to fulfill a diversity hire. They were looking for somebody with talent. So, you know, it just sucks that it's still really a conversation. Yesterday I posted, like, I'm just tired of it. It's exhausting. But the reality is, again, like you said earlier about, or what I said about Rachel, it's not, we have to acknowledge that it's not necessarily an everybody thing either. You know, it's not everywhere, but it's tough. It's so tough.
It's tough. And yeah, so you're right. So it's like, it's hard to acknowledge that. But at the same time, like one of these people, I said to one of the people that said this to me in the past, and several women have, to my face and to others, I'm like, for years, you got jobs because you were white and blonde. So why is it now a problem that all of a sudden being white and blonde is not popular anymore and being Black and talented is? You know? So I was like, hey man, if it's trendy and my check is coming in, do what you call it what you want.
Right. If my check is cashing.
Yeah, shoot. I'm gonna do the job. I'm gonna collect my check and sorry. So
that's well, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to for me. Is my check gonna clear? Are we good?
Right.
So well, let's shift gears a little bit, because that's a heavy topic, and I feel like honestly we could talk about that all night. But let's kind of switch a tad bit. Buffalo has made history again a couple weeks ago now with the election with the mayor. So we see that Byron Brown is now going to do like a write-in campaign. Do you have any thoughts about, I know you said you aren't in Buffalo, so you hesitated tweeting out. What are your thoughts first on the victory from Miss India, and then, you know, the developments that are coming out now?
So I said I tried to hesitate. I did not succeed. Okay. I was unsuccessful in minding my own business. But I mean, honestly, it was because that was supposed to be like my last hurrah, this primary. And I had been talking about it long before anybody else was even paying attention. And even leading up to that day, I saw the iPost was doing some great work. The Buffalo News had started putting some stuff out, but like, you know, and this is the problem I have with Buffalo media. And this is why I got a lot of trouble when I was there, because I'd be calling everybody out left and right, and I still am. But I feel like everybody dropped the ball. Everybody dropped the ball. I don't feel like the electorate was informed, you know, the community, like people who went to the polls. I did a feature on India. I don't know, maybe it was like December or January, and didn't see anything about her up, like anything else, you know? And so when that happened, I was looking around, everybody was just like, oh gosh, what do we do? We weren't expecting this. I was like, that's because you weren't paying attention. Like, what is going on? Even Byron, it is the, let me talk without getting myself into trouble.
That's tough these days. If
I were a Buffalo voter, I would be very offended. I'd be offended by what happened and what's happening now. I can say that because I was a Buffalo voter for many years. I was just, you know, in there. So I won't even get into political leanings. I'm just talking about political strategy right now.
Right.
How are you? This is like a man who didn't work to get you, and then you walk out, and it's like, oh no, baby, wait a minute.
No, you mine.
Like, I never thought she would leave me.
Yeah.
And now you want to bring me flowers, and you want to take me out and wine and dine me. Like, bruh, hold on. You didn't have to work for me before, right? Okay. Yeah. Cool. So that's what I feel like this whole entire thing is like that's how it's playing in my head. But
that's a great analogy. That is a perfect analogy.
That is exactly what happened. He's like, oh no, baby, you really left. So you know, India, I think it's interesting. And here's what I want people to pay attention to. I want you to pay attention to what she is saying and what people are saying she's saying, right?
Right.
Because it's very different. And I've noticed that a lot of people are putting words in her mouth, and I'm talking about like journalists that she has never said before. When it comes to the mayor, so here's me as a journalist, like I'm thinking like, how would I be covering this right now? Brown, I'm digging into money. I'm digging into, you know, past contributions, his relationship. People forget about grassroots. People forget about like that tree, right? That helped him get there in the first place. But I think what I would really be following and really be looking into is who is working to keep him in office, right? who he says he's working for and who is actually putting him there in office and getting him there. Like, these are the things that as a journalist, I spent a lot of time trying to learn Buffalo history, because you can't inform people about what's going on right now if you don't know what's happened before and what's happening under the layers. So for India, I definitely, they're looking into her past right now. She's acknowledging it. But I think just getting more clarity on what she means and what she's trying to do, who she's trying to put into office, who her network is going to be, like, those are my storylines. As you can tell, I haven't thought about this much, but
no, not at all. Like, you didn't give it any thought. Just
if I were there, still covering it. But I spent a year doing a bunch of stories showing people who live in the city of Buffalo what kind of city they live in, what's happening, who's running it. So what happened on that Tuesday, June, whatever, not surprising in the least if you were paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? It was shocking to me because, like I said, I moved to Phoenix last March. I moved here March 9th. And, obviously COVID happened. The country shut down March 15th. But because I'm not there, there's a lot of things that I'm unplugged from. Yeah. Politics are one of them now. So with that being said, the morning of the election, or actually the day before the election, I saw someone post one of her Miss India's speeches. I forget where she was, but I texted my sister. I texted Judge Pridge, and I'm like, is this person legit? Like, is she, and she's like, you know what? I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of buzz about her. And so we had a conversation, and then next thing I know, she won. And it's like, okay, so I guess she is legit.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like even what you said about texting your sister who still lives there, it's like, I wish people knew more about who was on the ballot, because traditionally, that primary, and that's what I was saying to people, I'm like, the primary chooses the next mayor if the mayor is not trying to, get his baby back, which is the city. So I was like, I just wish that there was more information so people could be more informed. Like, that's the role of the media, right? Dig deep. What are they saying? What do they actually mean? Can they back it up? So now I see a lot of that coming out. And I'm super interested. I'm following along like nothing I've ever followed before. Can this write-in campaign work? Who are the consultants?
Well, it's different. Like, it's so different. It's so I'm 35 and I've never personally seen anything like this. I know in history there are things like this. I've read about them now, but I've never actually seen someone lose the primary and then say, all right, you know what? My bad. I forgot. Write me in. We're gonna keep this.
Oh, I forgot. I should have campaigned. Oh, that worked. So, and it's just so that, and I'm telling you, I love Buffalo. There's just such an opportunity to do great work and tell amazing stories that have huge impact. But yeah, I just coming off of the 4 years in the Trump administration as a journalist, there was never a break, right? Mm-hmm. And now everywhere else, it's kind of calming down. I'm in Atlanta right now, so the mayor race that made national news when Adams decided not to run again after saying she was. So that's getting heated, but. I just think, and I talked to I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I talked to a young journalist, and she asked me, what do I think what can the industry be doing better right now? And I said, it's covering local news, right? Where you are in your community, because local news is making national news. And I think everybody's trying to copy national news and bring it to the local level when it really works the other way around. I think people need to be better informed in their communities about who's running it, where their money's going, how it's being used, and how it should be being used. So I really want to see local politics get the boost that it needs, but the dying industry,
Yeah, but but it's still so important because obviously local isn't dying. Like, we still have to live every single day. So you're right. It's a dying art. It's a dying, part of the industry, but man, we really need that. We need it. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a little, not personal, but more personal geared questions. So about your career so far, I want to ask you about two specific moments. The first being, do you have anything that you like your biggest wow moment as a journalist or a reporter? Because for me now doing the podcast, there's a lot of times like now I'm doing interviews and there's certain people I talk to where I have to like really tell myself like chill. You got to get the fandom out, or like something that happens that made you say, wow, oh my God, this is incredible.
Wow, oh my God, honestly, it would be May 30th of last year. And this was the night that I think a lot of people who follow my work now were introduced to me. And that was the night of the Buffalo riot. The Black Lives Matter protest. And of course, this past year, we've lost a lot of journalists. because this past year was just insanely difficult. Working from home, not having a break, like I have a 1-bedroom like studio apartment. It's like roll out of bed, coronavirus, get back in bed, coronavirus. And then from that rolled right into riots and protests for Black Lives Matter, into the political cycle. Like there was no room to breathe. But I think May 30th, those were the nights of Buffalo riots. And it was just, I had a 75-minute live shot. It was just me and the anchor, nobody else, no one to toss it to. It was just me out there and walking around and seeing a community activate, right? And every community had their version of what happened there, right? Seeing people's pain and also realizing how like I'm a part of this community. And that was my wow moment. There was no separation between journalist and person because I was out there. And I remember at the end of the night, the anchor asked me, like, what are your thoughts tonight? And I was like, I didn't realize how scared I was because like some people out here, like, these are my friends. These are, like my brothers and sisters. Like I live here. I know these people. This is my home. This is my community. And like to see that pain, it brought two concepts together for me. That like I will never not be a human to do this job, which I think a lot of people feel like they have to do. And so that was my like aha moment as a journalist. Everything started clicking. And then from there, that's where you start to see some of the work that you talked about at the beginning. Not separating myself from where I live and who I'm around and what they care about. I'm like, if you care about this, I'm gonna give somebody the business to get us some answers, Yeah. So that was my aha moment. Not a celebrity. I will not do celebrity interviews because they do not be respecting my time. So I would do an interview with Vanessa Williams in Buffalo, and I was like, oh yes, she was gorgeous, so kind, but just the schedule. I was like, weren't you supposed to be here 9 minutes ago?
Trust me, I get it.
I know So
it's like with interviews, it's the most nerve-wracking thing because like, it's like, okay, we're going live at such and such time, boom. And I'll be in here waiting and it's like, okay, I'm going live either way, but
right.
So I get you. Trust me.
Yeah. So that was my big wow moment that I think it clicked, and I'll keep that with me.
Well, you know what? That moment, personally, I can appreciate that moment because, like I said, I moved in March. So Buffalo is still very much my community. It's still very much my home. So, a lot of your coverage made me feel like I was there. So thank you for that. It was downtown was so scary. It was so scary.
No one has ever seen anything like that. My photographer, born and raised in Western New York, and just the whole night, I'm like, all right, let's keep it moving. He's like, wow. He just kept looking around like, I've never seen this. I never thought my city would look like this.
Yeah.
We were getting shot at. I was like, let's go, duck, like, But so just to see that in people's eyes and hearts, and there was a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain in the community because, like we said at the very beginning of this conversation, there are so many conversations that don't happen in Buffalo. Everybody knows, but it never rises to the surface of being talked about publicly. So I think that's what that was over the summer. Just a lot of hearts pouring out finally.
Well, I can say that for the time being, I'm glad that particular cause has kind of, I don't want to say died down because I know that the cause is still going strong as far as equality and everything, but I'm glad it's not dominating the news cycles. And I'm glad that it's not everything that we're talking about because the country was so divided last year. And it at a time that I felt like with the virus and everything, we should have been together. Right. It was so divided and it was such a hard time. So again, just thank you for your work with that. Thank you for everything that you've done for Buffalo. It's honestly, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Like I'm geeked about this.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, no, last summer it showed everybody where we live. I think who we are. Even I'm thinking more about the coronavirus and thinking about the response today, people's feelings about vaccines and just health and safety and masks. Like, I think we learned a lot about who we are as Americans, for people who identify as Americans this past year.
Yeah. So, okay. So we know your big moment, I guess, your wow moment there in Buffalo. What was because obviously Buffalo, the community, we like feel good moments. What was your favorite Buffalo moment? What do you love the most about the city?
Oh man, that's a good question. What do I love most about the city? It was mostly the people. It was such an easy place to make friends. Like in Atlanta, that's been the hardest thing for me. I'm like, people don't want to just reach out and like say hi and make sure that I feel they're like, man, you know, come on in here, find your lane, but we're not gonna help you. And I'm like, you're not? Like, what do you mean?
Like, what do you mean?
I mean, yeah, like even just, you know, everywhere else you talk to just other reporters at stations and like they're willing to help. Here it's like everybody's minding their own business. So I love the people, the festivals. I have to say, if anything, that was just, I think, the best of Buffalo. Like the Italian Heritage Festival was always fun. I did a string cheese building competition there. My very first, I never had beef on weck because my first event in Buffalo I ever did was the Chicken Wing Festival. I don't know what that's called, but where you bring all people, and there was a beef on weck wing. And I almost
my uncle won that twice.
No, he did not.
Twice.
I couldn't. It was a lot of tasting. I just couldn't do it. But there was a beef on weck wing, and I literally was on a chicken. So I never had beef on weck when I was in Western New York. But you know, from that to Taste of Buffalo, like to just the charity meatball street brawl, like those were the best times of my life. Like going out, experiencing Buffalo food and people.
Yeah, the people in Buffalo, I miss so much. It's like the community, like obviously I'm a big part of the sports community, but I mean, just in general, people are, I mean, I want to say this carefully because I don't want to lie about us. We're not like the nicest city in the world where you're going to go and everybody's like waving and bubbly,
no.
But we're kind in the sense that like, if something's going on as a community, we'll come together and we got your back.
And that's the thing. You talk about stories, like I've never seen such a blue collar city. And it's like, how are people raising $500,000, $600,000 from $5 donations, you know, for these like GoFundMe? It's like, if something happens in that community, every single person is pitching in. And that, I mean, you see the Josh Allen raising $1 million for this wing at Children's Hospital. Just because everybody wants to pitch in and get behind a cause, we donate to other teams when they're mean to us. Like,
just to prove.
Yeah. Like, let me show you who we are. We're going to donate you the radio host in Baltimore that said something, and everyone is donating to Alzheimer's Fund. Like, that is who Western New York is. Like, we're going to make sure that like your cause is supported. What you care about, we care about. And that is, I changed my answer to yours. I like that one more.
Well, no, it's cool. I wanted to say it that way because I always try not to lie about my city, and it's like I love Buffalo so much, so it's like I don't want to say like, yo, we the nicest people in the world, because we're not, but we're kind-hearted people. That was a culture shock for me moving out here in Phoenix. It seems like everybody's just happy. They're like, oh hey, what's going on? I'm walking my dog and people are like staring. When I first got here, I'm like, it's one of those things, but they're like, is that people want to talk about your dog? Where are you from? Everybody's so nice.
Yeah.
But moving on really quickly. So I'm not gonna hold you too much longer. Like I said, I anticipated having the four guests, and so I don't want to kill you with questions here. But so you're running for, I believe it's the secretary position, the NAJB.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I was in Buffalo, I was president of, the NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists. It's essentially the Black Journalist Network. We have like all different sports, news, producers, editors, print, broadcast. And it's an amazing organization. And if you are a Black journalist in any form, even in like, radio and entertainment, I suggest getting connected because it's the best network. And we're big on advocacy. So when in Buffalo, I became president of our local chapter there. And I was only the second president in the 20 years that we've had that chapter. Because if there's anything that describes Buffalo, like everyone's very old school. We're going to keep doing what we do. And I'm like, you can't have a president for 19 years. Like get some new blood in here. But having that platform was awesome because I got to really dig into the advocacy branch of what we do, advocating for Black journalists. So what we talked about with Maria Taylor and Rachel Nichols, that's something NABJ is going to be up in here like, hello, ESPN. What do we do? That wasn't an acceptable response. So that's where we come in. We get action, we get results. So that's the kind of work that has drawn me to the organization. People are giving out grants. And so I'm running for the national board now. We have local chapters in most regions, and there was opportunity to run. I'm running unopposed, so unless they're going to mount a write-in campaign against me, Byron Brown style.
That's too perfect.
I mean, unless they're gonna go Byron Brown on me, then I should be taking office in August, and I'm really excited to be on that national scale, so I can be a part of responding to events like this at ESPN, right? Because I think that people think it's effective to go in with an iron fist and demand this, but really, it's about having strong relationships so that those people at ESPN will be willing to sit down at the table with you, knowing it's not going to be a great conversation, but knowing, you know, I'm not here to like bang your head against the wall. I'm here to say, how can I help you fix this long-standing diversity problem so that your employees don't feel like they got to bash this person because of what they're not getting. Like, let's talk about this. Let's start at the bottom with who you're bringing in, how you're elevating people. Like, I love being a part of those solution-based conversations. So running for secretary on the basis of like, yeah, y'all think I'm over here taking notes, but really I'm in these meetings. I'm bringing my voice to this, and, you know, I'm on a national level now. So I'm really excited about that opportunity. I think I'm going to be the youngest board member officer actually ever elected. Wow. So that's going to be a big move for me. And I mean, it's like most organizations, we're trying to bridge the gap between our established veterans and the next generation coming in. So I'm excited to kind of hopefully be able to work in that space as well.
Well, I was actually, you know, I'm going to reach out to you probably once this is over about that, because I asked Antoine Staley about it, and he's like, dude, you need to jump in on it. But I wasn't sure because obviously I'm not, you know, media. I'm doing podcasting and stuff. So I just wasn't sure.
Well, no, and that's what we're trying to do. We're creating like definitely spaces for that, because the definition of media is expanding. When I was in Buffalo, we actually changed our bylaws to include people like that, videographers, bloggers, podcasters, part of a membership category, because we're like, no, that's media. Like, this whole conversation, people probably didn't know about 3 or 4 things we talked about. Like, this is news. We're getting stuff to different kinds of communities. So the definition of media is expanding. The way that people are receiving information is so different. I was talking about, I'm like, I don't know why I got this TV back here. I don't got no cable, you know. Like, cutting the cord. Like, nobody watches TV anymore.
I do not have cable. Yep, I'm with you.
I'm like, I work in TV, and people are like, oh, I don't watch the news. I'm like, I don't go to McDonald's and be like, yo, I don't eat French fries. Like, what? It's okay. Nobody watches TV. It's fine. I still get paid. So
hey, your news gets out there though, you know. So, but again, it's just a loss. I think TV, everything is just streaming. You know, yes. Once we got like the iPhone and they started doing like the downloads with the MP3s, and then once it goes to streaming music, everything else is over. Like, I have a strong belief, my best friend Joe and I, we have a strong belief that radio is pretty much going to be taking a hurting really soon. Just everything. But back to your future position. So that was the first time I met you too, in Buffalo at, I think Roland Martin came for, it was like, actually, right before I left, it was probably February of last year, and that's when I first met you. So I'm glad that we were finally able to get our scheduling around to do this, because, like I said, you just have so much knowledge and information, and I think it's important that people hear from people in a setting that's not always you doing your job. Yeah, you know, because you have so much knowledge, and that's why I wanted Judge Pridgeon on here and Renee as well. But we'll get everybody. Trust me, this just means I'm gonna have like 4 shows. That's all that means.
I think, and I saw the slate. I was like, oh, we got some heavy hitters coming in here. So, and Adrienne,
I was trying.
I saw her little theme song at the beginning. I was like, okay, now wait a minute. So
now that's a little flex. That's a little flex, though. A lot of people don't know. So that intro, that used to be her song when she was doing Unsigned Hype on Friday nights at 10 p.m. I don't know if she still does. I'm not in Buffalo, but I did that intro. So that voice you heard on there, that was Jay Spence at the beginning. I was on WBOK every single week. That was me. So I'm just saying, people don't, you know, just a little flex every once in a while. You know what I mean?
That was a strong little flex, because I was feeling that song. Okay.
Thank you. I got to, you know, every once in a while, I got to let people know I'm a little talented. But but no, seriously, thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you want to let everybody know where they can find your work, where they can find your socials to kind of keep up with you.
Yeah. So on socials, Instagram and Twitter, it's just Madison L. Carter. I'll come up looking all like hard ass. I'm not really, I like to joke around. But I'm on there on Twitter, and Twitter is really where I like to share my work and talk about my work. So I'm excited. I've been working on a few documentary pieces, and they're going to start rolling out in the next couple of weeks. So I've been missing that interaction. So please follow me on there so we can talk about stuff. And when I can't mind my Buffalo business, we can chat about what's going on there too. And then on Facebook, it's just Madison Carter TV. But yeah, Twitter fingers, that's my lane. That's where you'll find it.
Twitter is, I feel like the interaction on Twitter is so different than every other net or social media. And it's just, to me, I don't even want to fool with the rest of them. So
yeah, it's a great place to like discuss things. Instagram, it's like, show me a pretty picture. And I'm like,
yeah, I ain't got time for that. I ain't got I want to talk. I ain't got time for pictures.
Exactly. I want to talk right now. Feedback. Oh, was I wrong? My bad. Let me fix it. Or like, So yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful, the amazing, most beautiful Miss Madison Carter. Thank you so much. And everybody, I'm going to get back to our regularly scheduled program next week, talking football like I do. Come back. Y'all know how I do it at the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Networks. Go and find us there. Find us on YouTube. Find us everywhere. Just go and subscribe. And as always, love each other. Take care of each other and live in peace. And go Bills.
Go Bills.
You had to say it.